I never thought I would see my brother Jackson walk through our family home again, especially not with Amanda by his side. 4 years ago, he betrayed me in the worst way possible, sleeping with my wife behind my back for months, before they ran off together. My family somehow blamed me, saying I drove them to it. Today, they returned mocking my single status and unchanged appearance. But Dad had news that wiped the smug smiles right off their faces. If you are watching this video, hit like, subscribe, and let me know where you are viewing from before I tell you about the day karma finally caught up with my brother. Growing up in Portland, Jackson and I were never the closest siblings. 3 years younger than me, he always seemed to be living in my shadow, at least according to him. While I excelled academically and in sports, Jackson struggled to find his place. Our father, Thomas, never hid his preference for my achievements, constantly comparing Jackson to me in ways that planted seeds of resentment. Our mother tried to balance things out, but the damage was already done. "Why cannot you be more like Dominic?" became the soundtrack to my brother's childhood, a phrase I heard through our shared bedroom wall more times than I could count. I tried to help him, tutoring him through difficult subjects and including him with my friends, but it only seemed to make him resent me more. By high school, we were practically strangers living under the same roof. I focused on my studies and basketball, earning a scholarship to University of Oregon, while Jackson barely graduated, choosing instead to work odd jobs around town. Despite our differences, I always hoped that adult life would eventually bring us closer. During my junior year of college, I met Amanda in an economics class. With her striking red hair and quick wit, she immediately caught my attention. After weeks of gathering my courage, I finally asked her out for coffee. That first date stretched into hours of conversation, and before I knew it, we were inseparable. Amanda was everything I had ever wanted in a partner: intelligent, ambitious, and with a warm laugh that made everyone around her smile. After dating for 2 years, we got married in a small ceremony by the ocean, with Jackson serving as my best man. The look on his face during his toast still haunts me sometimes, a mixture of admiration and something darker that I chose to ignore at the time. After graduation, Amanda and I returned to Portland. I secured a position at a financial consulting firm while she began working at a local marketing agency. We bought our first house, a modest 2-bedroom not far from my parents'. Life seemed perfect, and I was too blind with happiness to see the signs that something was wrong. Jackson had remained in Portland, bouncing between jobs and apartments. Whenever we had family dinners, I noticed how his eyes followed Amanda around the room, but I dismissed it as harmless admiration. I even encouraged Amanda to help him when he expressed interest in improving his career prospects, thinking it would be good for both of them. "Your brother just needs some guidance," Amanda would say. "He has potential, but lacks confidence." So trusting was I that I suggested they meet for lunch occasionally to discuss his resume and interview skills. Those lunches, I would later discover, had nothing to do with career development. 6 months into our marriage, I began noticing subtle changes in Amanda. She became secretive, with her phone working late more frequently, and our intimate life dwindled. When I expressed concern, she blamed work stress and accused me of being controlling. Wanting to be a supportive husband, I backed off, giving her the space she claimed to need. The truth came crashing down one Thursday evening when I returned early from a business trip. My flight had been canceled, allowing me to surprise Amanda a day early. The surprise, however, was entirely mine when I opened our bedroom door to find my brother and my wife in our bed. The image burned into my memory: his hands on her body, their clothes scattered across our bedroom floor, wedding photos watching from the nightstand. Dominic, Amanda shrieked, clutching the sheets to her chest, while Jackson scrambled to find his pants. This is not what it looks like. But it was exactly what it looked like. The betrayal was compounded by their pathetic attempts at denial, followed by excuses, and finally a confession that they had been seeing each other for the past 4 months. "We did not mean for it to happen," Jackson said, as if affairs just spontaneously occurred without anyone making conscious decisions. "But we cannot help how we feel." I stood there, my world collapsing around me, as my brother explained that they were in love, that they had tried to fight it but could not deny their feelings anymore. Each word was like a knife twisting in my chest. "Get out," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. When neither moved, I roared, "Get out of my house!" They left quickly, Amanda grabbing a small bag she had apparently packed in anticipation of being discovered. The last thing my brother said before walking out was, "We are going to tell Mom and Dad our side first. They deserve to know the truth." Their truth, as I would soon discover, was nothing but a fabrication designed to absolve them of guilt. Still reeling from discovering my wife and brother together, I drove to my parents' house the next morning, desperate for support and guidance. I had spent the night alternating between tears and rage, unable to comprehend how the two people I trusted most could betray me so completely. My father's truck and mother's car were both in the driveway, along with a vehicle I recognized as Jackson's beaten-up sedan. My stomach dropped. They had made good on their threat to speak to my parents first. Taking a deep breath, I knocked on the door of the home, where I had grown up suddenly feeling like a stranger. My mother answered, her expression cold and distant, so unlike her usual warm welcome. "Dominic," she said flatly, "we were wondering when you would show up." The living room felt like a tribunal. My father sat in his recliner, face like stone. Jackson and Amanda occupied the couch, their hands intertwined in a display that felt deliberately cruel. My mother gestured to a lone chair opposite everyone, clearly positioning me as the outsider. "Your brother and Amanda have told us everything," my father began, his voice carrying the same disappointment he used when addressing my brother's failures during our childhood. The irony was not lost on me. "Did they tell you I found them having sex in my bed yesterday?" I asked, watching my mother flinch at the bluntness of my words. "They told us about your emotional abuse and neglect." My father continued as if I had not spoken. "About how you belittled Amanda, controlled her every move, even checked her phone and emails." I stared at them in disbelief. "That is absolute nonsense. I never did any of those things." Amanda dabbed at fake tears with a tissue. "You see, he always denies everything. Makes me feel crazy for my own experiences. The gaslighting never stops." "And you," my father turned to Jackson, his voice softening in a way I had rarely heard directed at my brother. "You tried to help her, to be there for her when Dominic was being cruel and feelings developed. It is unfortunate but understandable." I could not believe what I was hearing. My entire family had accepted a complete fabrication without question, without even giving me the benefit of the doubt. The hurt was indescribable. "None of that is true," I said, my voice shaking with emotion. "They have been having an affair for months behind my back. I caught them in our bed. In our bed." My mother sighed. "Dominic, we know you are upset about losing Amanda, but making wild accusations only makes you look worse." "Wild accusations." I stood up, unable to contain my anger. I saw them with my own eyes. "How can you believe this story they have concocted?" My father rose as well, his 6-foot frame still imposing despite his 60 years. "We believe it because we have seen how you treat people. Your superiority complex, your condescension. You have always thought yourself better than everyone, especially your brother." "That is not true," I protested, but my words fell on deaf ears. Jackson spoke up, his arm now around Amanda's shoulders. "We did not want to hurt you, Dom. It just happened. And now we want to move forward without drama. Amanda is moving in with me, and we would like your blessing." The audacity of the request left me speechless. They wanted my blessing for their betrayal. "This family sticks together," my father declared. "If you cannot accept your brother and Amanda's relationship, then perhaps you should take some time away from the family until you can." I looked at each of their faces, searching for any sign of doubt or support, finding none. "So you are choosing them over me? After what they did?" "We are choosing peace," my mother said softly, though her eyes would not meet mine. "Sometimes love develops in unexpected ways." "Love?" I laughed bitterly. "This is not love. This is betrayal, pure and simple. And you are all complicit in it." I walked toward the door, then turned back one last time. "You know what? Keep them. You deserve each other. I am done with all of you." My father's parting words cut deeper than anything else that day. "If that is your choice, then do not bother coming back. This family has had enough of your drama and selfishness." I left my childhood home that day feeling utterly alone, disowned by the very people who should have supported me. Within weeks, divorce papers arrived, with Amanda seeking half of everything we owned, despite our brief marriage. My parents helped her find a cutthroat lawyer who painted me as an abusive husband, and the judge, swayed by their character testimonies, ruled largely in her favor. To add insult to injury, Amanda and Jackson moved into a house just 2 blocks from my parents, becoming regular fixtures at family gatherings from which I was explicitly excluded. Holiday photos posted on social media showed them celebrating as if they were the perfect couple, with my parents beaming proudly beside them. Meanwhile, I sold what remained of my possessions and moved to Seattle, determined to start fresh in a city where nobody knew my name or my shame. Leaving Portland was the hardest decision I had ever made, but it was also the most necessary. The city that had once been home now felt like a prison of memories and betrayal. Every street corner, every restaurant, every park held some reminder of my life with Amanda or my relationship with my family. Seattle offered anonymity and distance, the chance to rebuild without constantly looking over my shoulder. My first apartment was a studio barely bigger than my previous master bathroom, located in a rundown building in South Seattle. With most of my savings gone to legal fees and the divorce settlement, I had to start from scratch. I found work at an entry-level position in a small financial firm far below my qualifications, but all I could secure without references, as my previous employer had received some unflattering calls about my character, undoubtedly from Amanda's lawyer. The first year was a blur of work and isolation. I avoided making connections, convinced that trust would only lead to more pain. My routine became mechanical wake-up work: come home, sleep, repeat. The weekends stretched endlessly, and I filled them with mindless television and takeout food. My phone rarely rang, except for spam calls, and my email inbox remained depressingly empty of personal messages. Depression crept in slowly then, all at once. There were days I could not get out of bed when the weight of everything I had lost pressed down on me until breathing felt like an impossible task. The betrayal replayed in my mind on endless loop, accompanied by the cruel words of my family, the cold eyes of my mother, the disgusted dismissal from my father. 6 months into my self-imposed exile, I hit rock bottom. Sitting on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by empty food containers and unwashed clothes, I realized I had 2 choices. Let this situation destroy me completely, or find a way to rebuild my life from the ashes. The next morning, I signed up for therapy through a community health center, joining a support group for people dealing with relationship betrayal. For the first time, I found myself in a room full of people who understood my pain without judgment, who nodded in recognition rather than disbelief when I shared my story. What your brother and wife did was wrong, my therapist stated plainly during our first session. And what your family did afterward was also wrong. You deserve better than that. Such a simple validation, yet it broke something open inside me. I had been carrying not just the pain of betrayal, but also the question of whether I somehow deserved it. Hearing someone say unequivocally that I did not was the first step in a long healing process. Through therapy, I began to understand that while I could not control what had happened to me, I could control my response to it. I started making small changes, joining a gym, eating healthier, reaching out to former college friends who had nothing to do with my family or Portland life. One such friend connected me with a job opportunity at a growing tech startup looking for someone with financial expertise. The interview went well, and I found myself hired as a financial analyst for Cloud Secure, a cybersecurity company with innovative ideas but disorganized finances. The work was challenging and engaging, pulling me out of my head and giving me something concrete to focus on besides my pain. My boss, Trevor, became the first person in Seattle I would cautiously call a friend. "You have a sharp mind for patterns," he told me, after I identified an inefficiency in their billing system that saved the company thousands. "We need more of that thinking around here." Slowly, I began building a new life. I moved to a better apartment, bought a car, and started exploring the Pacific Northwest on weekend hiking trips. I made a point of saying yes to social invitations, even when my instinct was to retreat into solitude. Each small step took me further away from the broken man who had first arrived in Seattle. On a company retreat to Mount Rainier, I met Sarah, an environmental scientist who was consulting with CloudSecure on their green initiative. With bright eyes and a passion for conservation that animated her entire being, she reminded me that there was beauty in the world worth fighting for. Our first date was a hike through Discovery Park, where conversation flowed easily between topics ranging from climate change to favorite childhood books. Dating Sarah taught me that I could still be vulnerable without being destroyed. She listened patiently when I finally shared what had brought me to Seattle, offering compassion without pity. "What happened to you was terrible," she said, holding my hand across the dinner table. "But it does not define who you are or what you deserve." 2 years after arriving in Seattle broken and alone, I was promoted to Chief Financial Officer at CloudSecure as the company expanded rapidly. My financial strategies had helped secure several rounds of funding, and my reputation in the industry grew. I bought a modest house in a quiet neighborhood, planted a garden, and adopted a rescue dog named Max, who greeted me with uncomplicated joy every evening. I had found my feet again, created a life that was truly mine. The pain had not disappeared entirely, but it had transformed from an acute, debilitating agony into an occasional dull ache, a scar rather than an open wound. I still had no contact with my family, though I occasionally checked their social media accounts, watching from a distance as life in Portland continued without me. It was through one such check that I learned Amanda had left Jackson for someone else, a predictable outcome that nonetheless gave me no satisfaction. My parents still posted pictures with Jackson, their golden child, now seemingly untroubled by the collapse of the relationship they had defended so vigorously. I closed the browser window, deciding that keeping these digital windows into their lives open was preventing my own wounds from fully healing. I deleted my old social media accounts and created new ones connecting only with people from my Seattle life. Sarah moved in, bringing her collection of houseplants and environmental science books. We discussed the future cautiously but optimistically, both aware of the baggage we carried but committed to building something meaningful together. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely happy, secure in the knowledge that I had created this happiness for myself piece by piece, day by day. Then the phone call came that would test everything I had built. It was a Tuesday evening in March, nearly 4 years since I had left Portland. Sarah and I were making dinner, laughing about a documentary we had watched the night before, when my phone rang with an unrecognized Portland area code. I almost declined the call, but something made me answer. Dominic. The voice was familiar, yet different, older somehow. My mother. "Please do not hang up." I said nothing, the sound of her voice transporting me instantly back to that day in their living room, the day they chose my brother over me. "Your father is very sick," she continued into the silence. "Cancer. The doctors are saying he has 3 months, maybe less. He is asking for you." The wooden spoon in my hand stilled over the pot of pasta sauce. Sarah noticed my expression and moved closer, her hand on my arm, providing silent support. "Why would he ask for me now?" I finally asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "He made his choice very clear 4 years ago." My mother sighed, a sound filled with exhaustion and regret. "Things have changed, Dominic. Jackson and Amanda, it did not work out. There have been many truths revealed since you left." "Truths?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean you finally realized they were lying all along?" "Please," she whispered. "Your father is dying. Whatever happened, whatever mistakes we made, does that not count for something? Can you come home just once to say goodbye?" I looked at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly, though she could only hear my side of the conversation. After a long pause, I responded, "I will think about it," and ended the call. That night, lying awake beside Sarah's sleeping form, I wrestled with the decision. Did I owe my father a final visit? Did I owe myself the closure? Or would returning only reopen wounds that had taken years to heal? After days of deliberation and long conversations with Sarah and my therapist, I made my choice. I would return to Portland, not out of obligation, but to face my past on my own terms, to show them that I had survived, that I had thrived, despite their betrayal. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah asked as we packed our bags. I had insisted she come with me, needing her grounding presence. "No, I admitted. But I think I need to do it anyway. We flew into Portland International Airport on a rainy Friday afternoon. Instead of staying with family, I booked a suite at the Nines, a luxury hotel downtown. Let them come to me on my territory, not theirs. I texted my mother our location and that we would be available for dinner that evening if they wanted to meet. The response was immediate. They would come to the hotel restaurant at 7. All of them, including Jackson. My father was having a good day and felt strong enough for the outing. I wondered briefly if Amanda would be there too, but quickly dismissed the thought. Even they would not be that tactless. Sarah and I spent the afternoon walking along the waterfront, her first time in Portland, giving me the opportunity to see familiar sights through new eyes. The rain stopped leaving. The city washed clean and glistening in the late afternoon Sunday. I pointed out landmarks from my previous life, surprised by how distant they felt now, like locations from a movie I had seen long ago. At 6:30, we returned to the hotel to prepare for dinner. I chose a tailored suit that emphasized the muscle I had gained through regular workouts, a subtle display of my improved circumstances. Sarah wore an elegant blue dress that complemented her blonde hair, looking every bit the successful professional she was. Together, we made a striking couple, projecting confidence and success. "Ready?" she asked, squeezing my hand as we rode the elevator down to the restaurant. "As I will ever be," I replied, drawing strength from her presence. They were already seated when we arrived, my mother spotting us first and raising a trembling hand in recognition. My father sat beside her, shockingly diminished from the imposing figure in my memory. Cancer had hollowed his cheeks and stolen his robust frame, leaving behind a shadow of the man who had once cast me out of the family. Jackson sat across from them alone, looking nervous and uncomfortable, in a rumpled button-down shirt that hung loosely on his frame. Taking a deep breath, I led Sarah to the table, steeling myself for whatever came next. The silence as we approached the table was deafening, broken only by the ambient noise of the restaurant around us. My mother stood first, moving as if to embrace me before stopping herself, uncertainty in her eyes. My father remained seated, whether from physical weakness or emotional distance I could not tell. Jackson stared at his water glass, avoiding eye contact entirely. "Dominic," my mother finally said, her voice catching. "Thank you for coming. This is Sarah," I replied deliberately, not acknowledging her gratitude. "My partner." Introductions were exchanged with awkward formality, as if we were business associates rather than family. We sat down the expansive white tablecloth, stretching between us like neutral territory. A waiter appeared, taking drink orders and momentarily diffusing the tension. "You look well," my father said, once the waiter departed, his voice weaker than I remembered, but still carrying that note of evaluation of judgment. "Seattle must agree with you." "It does," I confirmed. "I am CFO at a cybersecurity firm now. We just closed our Series C funding. Professional achievements. Safe territory." My mother nodded encouragingly, while my father managed a small smile that might have been pride or might have been pain from his condition. Jackson continued his examination of the tableware. "And you?" I asked my brother directly, forcing him to finally look at me. "How have things been?" He flinched at the question as if I had physically struck him. "Things have been tough," he admitted. "Amanda left 2 years ago. She did to me what we did to you." There it was, the first acknowledgement of their betrayal. Not an apology, but a recognition at least. Karma has a way of coming full circle, I observed, not bothering to hide the satisfaction in my voice. Sarah placed a gentle hand on my knee under the table, a reminder to stay grounded. "Yes," Jackson mumbled. "I guess it does." Dinner proceeded with careful conversation, mostly led by my mother and Sarah, who displayed remarkable grace in navigating the emotional minefield. We discussed neutral topics, the restaurant's excellent food, Seattle's persistent rain, Sarah's environmental research. The cancer hung over the table. Unmentioned, though, my father's frequent breaks to catch his breath, and the pills he discreetly swallowed with his water were constant reminders of his condition. As dessert was served, Jackson, who had been drinking steadily throughout the meal, suddenly laughed, a harsh sound that cut through the carefully maintained civility. "Look at you," he said, gesturing sloppily at my tailored suit and at Sarah beside me. "Still single, LOL. Oh, wait, you brought your trophy girlfriend to show off?" "Jackson," my mother warned. But he continued, emboldened by alcohol and bitterness. "Mr. Successful with his fancy job and pretty blonde. You always land on your feet. Do not you, big brother, while the rest of us suffer." I remained calm. Years of therapy, helping me recognize his outburst for what it was, the projection of his own failures. "My success was not handed to me, Jackson. I rebuilt my life after you and Amanda destroyed it." Before he could respond, the restaurant door opened, and as if summoned by her name in our conversation, Amanda walked in. She spotted our table and approached, apparently having arranged with Jackson to meet us there. My body tensed, Sarah's hand tightening on my knee in support. "Hey, ugly," Amanda said as she reached our table, her once attractive features hardened by years and spite. "Still the same. I see you finally found someone desperate enough to date you." Sarah straightened beside me. "Actually," she said before I could respond, her voice pleasant, but with steel underneath, "I am the fortunate one in this relationship. Dominic is not only successful, but kind, loyal, and honest, qualities that seem rare in his past associations." Amanda's face flushed at the pointed remark. She took the empty seat beside Jackson, who immediately poured her a glass of wine from the bottle on the table. My parents looked mortified at the turn the evening had taken. "I apologize for their behavior," my father said suddenly, his voice stronger than it had been all evening. This was not how this dinner was supposed to go. He straightened in his chair, seeming to gather his remaining strength. "I have something important I need to tell all of you." The table fell silent, all eyes turning to him. Even Amanda and Jackson appeared subdued by the seriousness in his tone. "I received some news yesterday," my father continued. "The experimental treatment we have been hoping for has been approved. My oncologist believes it could extend my life significantly, possibly even lead to remission." I blinked in surprise. This was not what I had expected. "That is wonderful news," I said, genuinely pleased despite everything. No matter our differences, I had never wished for my father's suffering. "There is more," he said, fixing Jackson and Amanda with a hard stare. "This dinner was meant to be a reconciliation, a chance for apologies and healing before I potentially leave this world. Instead, you two have shown the same selfishness and cruelty that tore this family apart 4 years ago." Jackson's mouth opened in shock, and Amanda shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Good timing," my father continued, his voice gaining strength with each word. "Because I have something important to tell you all. Something I should have said years ago." The atmosphere at the table changed instantly. Tension crackling like electricity. Jackson and Amanda's faces turned pale as my father reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a folded document. "This," he said, placing it on the table, "is my revised will. After careful consideration, and in light of recent revelations, I have made some changes." He opened the document, revealing multiple signed and notarized pages. "The house that Jackson and Amanda have been living in rent-free since their relationship began is being sold. The proceeds, along with the majority of my estate, will be placed in a trust to fund a scholarship in Dominic's name at the University of Oregon." Jackson made a choking sound. "Dad, you cannot be serious." "What about me?" "You," my father said with finality, "have received quite enough from me over the years. Your allowance ends next month. The car I bought you will be returned to the dealership. It is time for you to stand on your own feet as your brother had to do when we failed him." He turned to me, his eyes filled with unmistakable remorse. "Dominic, nothing I can do will ever make up for the way we treated you. I let my pride and Jackson's manipulation cloud my judgment, and I failed you as a father. If this experimental treatment works, and I am granted more time, I hope to begin making amends if you will allow it. If not, I understand, and this trust will serve as my final acknowledgement of the wrong done to you." The silence that followed was absolute, broken only when Amanda abruptly stood and left the table without a word, the click of her heels against the hardwood floor fading as she exited the restaurant. Jackson remained frozen in his seat, the color drained from his face, as the implications of my father's announcement sank in. My mother reached across the table, tentatively touching my hand. We were wrong, Dominic. So terribly wrong. Amanda confessed everything before she left Jackson. She admitted to pursuing him, to fabricating the abuse allegations. We should have trusted you, our son, who had never given us reason to doubt his character. Instead, we believed the worst. Can you ever forgive us? I looked at Sarah, finding strength in her encouraging nod, then back at my parents and brother. 4 years ago, I had left Portland broken and alone, discarded by the people who should have protected me. Now I was returning whole on my own terms, with the truth finally acknowledged. Forgiveness is not something I can offer today, I said honestly, but I am willing to consider a new beginning. Not picking up where we left off, but starting something different based on truth and respect. My father nodded, acceptance and hope mingling in his tired eyes. That is more than we deserve and all we can ask for. As we finished our meal in a calmer atmosphere, I realized that the family sitting across from me no longer held power over my happiness or self-worth. I had built a life I was proud of, found love with someone who valued me, and discovered strength I never knew I possessed. Whatever happened next, whether reconciliation was possible or not, I would be okay. I had already survived the worst they could do to me and emerged stronger for it. 6 months have passed since that fateful dinner in Portland. Life has taken unexpected turns, as it often does when we think we finally have everything figured out. My father's experimental treatment has shown promising results, shrinking his tumors and giving him a quality of life no one expected him to regain. We speak weekly now, careful conversations that navigate around old wounds while building new connections. It is not perfect, but it is honest, which is all I ever wanted from my family. My mother has made efforts to be part of my life again, sending thoughtful care packages to Seattle and taking a genuine interest in my work and relationship with Sarah. Last month, she flew up alone for a weekend visit, during which we had several long, tearful conversations about the past. I failed you as a mother, she admitted, as we walked along Alki Beach. I chose the easier path rather than the right one. Her apology cannot erase the past, but it has created space for a possible future. Jackson, unsurprisingly, did not handle his fall from grace with dignity. When my father cut off his financial support, he quickly discovered how ill-equipped he was to support himself. His sporadic work history and reputation for unreliability made finding employment difficult. Last I heard, he had moved to California, supposedly for a fresh start. Part of me hopes he finds his way, not for his sake, but for his own growth as a person. The rest of me acknowledges that his path is no longer my concern. Amanda occasionally appears in social media photos, always with a different partner, always presenting a carefully curated image of happiness that rings hollow to anyone who knows her true nature. She reached out once, sending a message that was more self-serving justification than genuine apology. I did not respond. Some bridges once burned should remain crossed off the map. As for Sarah and me, our relationship has deepened through these challenges. Watching her stand up for me at that dinner, witnessing her compassion for my family despite their past actions, confirmed what I already knew. She is the partner I want by my side for whatever comes next. Last weekend, on a sunrise hike to a mountain lake, I asked her to marry me. Her joyful acceptance was yet another affirmation that life after betrayal can be not just good, but beautiful. The scholarship my father established in my name will help business students who have demonstrated resilience in the face of personal hardships. The first recipient will be selected next fall, turning one family's painful lesson into another person's opportunity. There is something healing in that transformation, in knowing that good can emerge from even the darkest experiences. If there is a lesson in all of this, it is that betrayal does not have to define you. The actions of others, no matter how devastating, are not a reflection of your worth. The family you are born into may fail you, but the family you choose, the one you build from friendship and love and mutual respect, can carry you through the darkest times. I still have moments when the pain resurfaces, when a random memory ambushes me, and I feel that old familiar ache. But those moments grow fewer and farther between. The wound has scarred over, no longer bleeding, but leaving a mark that reminds me of my journey, of my strength, of how far I have come. If you are watching this and facing your own betrayal, your own family dysfunction, Know that you are not alone. Your story is not over yet. The chapter you are in may be painful, but it is not the end. You have the power to write what comes next, to create a life that honors your truth rather than someone else's convenient narrative. Let me know in the comments if you have experienced something similar, or how you handled family betrayal. Has karma ever caught up with someone who wronged you? Remember to like and subscribe for more stories of resilience and healing. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that there is life after betrayal, that second chances at happiness exist even when it feels impossible. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And remember, sometimes the family we choose brings more healing than the one we were born into.